Hello, this is Animated Anarchy, the podcast where we take a critical discussion of animation from the awesomely chaotic to the chaotically awesome. And by the end, we decide which is which. We'd never really know by the end of it. So yes, I am Andrew Dickman, and it's just me right now because it's only been one episode and Mike has already bailed on us. No, I'm just kidding. Mike actually has gone on a 2-week vacation, so I have taken it upon myself to continue the show on a weekly basis with a guest. And what I would like to do right now is welcome our guest to the second episode of Animated Anarchy. A wonderful artist, a wonderful friend, and is just completely talented and has a very huge love of animation altogether, and I would like to welcome Robert Iza.
Oh, thank you.
Woo! Yay! Clap, clap, clap. Audience applause. Do you hear that thunderous roar outside of this, wherever the hell we are?
Yeah, we're just in some kind of, abyss right now.
we're just in darkness right now, talking to each other in front of one microphone. That's really how it works here. I mean, I tried to create the illusion, but, if you really want to give away the secrets now, Rob, why not?
Yeah, no, I mean, they were going to figure it out eventually.
Yeah. So, yes, Rob is our guest for this week, and before I go on to what our movie is about, I want to thank all of our listeners. I'm actually really surprised that we've hit it off so well so far. I mean, we're almost at 700 listeners on our first episode.
Nice.
And we are now on iTunes. Yeah! iTunes, man!
That's a nice,
we made it!
That's a nice step.
And
right
we are
there.
also on Stitcher, which is like another great venue to have podcasts on, from what I hear.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually really surprised that I got on there. I mean, with my voice and everything.
No, the more the merrier.
Just bring them all in. We don't care. Open doors.
Sure.
Bring all the podcasts in.
Exactly.
But yes, we are on iTunes and Stitcher, and I said before that we started off on Bandcamp, and while that's true, I did get a Podbean account, which you can find it animatedanarchy.podbean.com, and that is where you can find us mainly, but we are also on iTunes and Stitcher, and that is really awesome. And I want to thank you all loyal listeners and everything, that we're going to continue on, and it's going to be awesome. Yay. So
Exactly.
awesome.
It'll be fun. It'll be good.
So anyway, Rob, our
Yep.
movie today.
Mm-hmm.
This is a movie that you recommended.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. Well, when you offered me the chance to, guest on this,
I told you what we were going to do.
You said one, and then I was like, sure. If you're ever going to do this movie, I'd like to do that one. And you're like, we can do that one. Like, okay.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, this movie that you recommended was, I remember seeing it in theaters. It's quite a while ago. I mean, Hello, everyone. I apologize for the brief interruption, but for some reason during the recording around this particular spot, about 2 minutes of dialogue was not recorded for some reason, and I have no idea what happened to it or where it went. It just kind of cut out all of a sudden and just went right on to whatever was coming afterwards. Anyway, what I was going to say basically was that we are reviewing the 2000 animated movie by Cartoon Network Studios, the Powerpuff Girls movie. And it was directed and written, created by Craig McCracken. And I just made a little note that the animation direction was done by Gendy Tartakovsky, who did Dexter's Laboratory. And I just thought that was pretty interesting, and I said something to the effect that they're kind of in the same league of that era. So anyway, I deeply apologize for that, and the rest of the podcast should be should run as smoothly as it should. So anyway, thank you so much. Around the same venue, he was the creator of Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah, Samurai Jack.
I honestly, yeah. I would almost pull this guy in at the same kind of visual look that was developed around the time. And I was surprised to see that he was the animation director. By the way, the voice cast in this movie is like unlike any other animated movie that I know about, in that the fact there is no celebrity names attached to this.
I mean,
look, don't get me wrong. Voice actors, I would say, like, as far as TV voice acting talent goes, they stick to TVs. Generally.
I think the thing too is you have to, versus just, it's a celebrity doing their own voice with a feature,
right.
With TV, like, you have to be flexible. You have to be versatile.
Yeah. And there are fantastic talents. I'm gonna just run down the entire list because this is like almost every voice actor talent in 2000. Kathy Cavadini, Tara Strong, Elizabeth Daly, Roger Jackson, Tom Kane, Tom Kenny, Jennifer Hale, Jennifer Martin, Jeff Bennett, Gray Delisle, Phil Lamar, Rob Paulson, Kevin Michael Rickardson, Frank Welker. It was funny because he's credited as a whole lot of monkeys.
Yeah.
I think he voiced something else, but this is the main credit. Whole lot of monkeys.
Well, he's definitely known for like creatures, animals, like
yes, he is.
Sounds and sound effects.
And he has a very distinctive voice when he does act as a
definitely.
As a
definitely.
human. He's Fred from Scooby-Doo, right? Yeah. I almost said Fred Flintstone. So, no, but I mean Fred from Scooby-Doo. I don't remember his last name. Whatever. But yeah, no, I mean, terrific talent. It starts off with Tom Kenny as the narrator.
Yeah.
And he basically sets up this the whole idea of the world, which, the city of Townsville. It is a place of complete chaos because it is overrun with crime, and there's only one man who can save it, and that is Professor Utonium. And we're just smack dab introduced to Professor Utonium, and this is in all respect, this is like an origin story movie.
Yeah,
I mean, the TV show was, for people who watched it, they kind of already knew what they were getting into.
Oddly enough, with the show, it's all in the introduction. It's all in the intro of the show, and you're basically like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. And then
it's very simple concept.
Dive into pretty much everything else.
I mean, even in this movie,
nice
it's
straightforward.
It's very straightforward. It's just like, hey, this is what's happening now. This is how he created them. It's a very simple concept. And
I think that's also like a lot of these things now. The more that I think about it, a lot of these elements to this is nice, simple, straightforward, strong. And the reason that those elements are there is because of all that experience with television. Like, the production pipeline is so much faster than feature that they're just forced into it. You have to tell something clear right away.
Right.
And
you have to set it up.
With most features, you have all this time to kind of get into minutia and whatnot. And I think that's like that is brought over, and that's why that part of it is so clear and so strong.
Well, it's funny because this entire movie is basically an origin story. In a lot of movies that are based off TV shows, like I'm gonna go off the top of my head, Rugrats, Doug. It's like SpongeBob, yeah. You already have the idea of the show, or the concept is already developed, because you've watched the show already. So it's like when you go into the movie, it's just like watching another episode.
Yeah.
And while it's like, I feel that in this movie, like, it's another episode of the show. It's really done. I mean, I honestly don't really like origin stories.
No,
personally.
I'm not a big fan of the idea of that in and of itself. Usually it's handled pretty poorly, and it becomes just exposition.
And we get tons of movies already that are just retelling origin stories.
Well, and exposition in and of itself is one of the most boring things to me. Like, anytime I have to deal with that kind of stuff, you just want to get through it as quickly as possible.
But in this movie, it's like, I feel what's good about that is that the origin story is kind of like the it fills in the gap of what the rest of the origin was, because when we have the show, it's like sugar, spice, everything nice. That's what Professor made, and
right.
The Powerpuff Girls were born.
You have the incident. This is more like how they became the characters that they are.
Yeah.
How they have the personalities that they do.
Right.
And their relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But going on through that, the first shot, I mean, after the cityscape and everything, when we're going right into the grocery store where Professor Utonium is shot, I honestly, I'm gonna say right now, that is my favorite shot in the entire thing.
Yeah, it's a pretty gorgeous shot.
And there's some really good shots in this movie, like very nice static poses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this one, honestly, I feel it's the most cinematic. It's the most helpful to the style of the entire movie. And it also is really dynamic for being very like two-dimensional.
Yeah.
And what I'm talking about is that Professor Utonium basically walks toward the camera, and the closer that it gets, the more he goes into perspective, and you see that he's a very two-dimensional character, like a very like rectangular, sharp-looking character.
Yeah.
And just looking at that and then seeing like where he turns and he still has that shape to his head, but it's like his nose and eyes and everything. It's like, I love that shot. That is my favorite shot.
No, yeah. I mean, I think that also showcases the aspect that, they're thinking about things so differently visually than almost every other 2D animated feature.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why I really love this movie, is because they're doing things that are so different, on a feature scale, where they can do stuff that's really fleshed out, but that they also make very smart, limited decisions at times that's influenced from their television experience.
Yeah. And that's something that I want to bring up is that, you're right. This is something that a lot of animated movies have not done before. And I think that's a really good risk. I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't a very good risk, considering that
it made money, but not like a lot of money.
I think they had probably far too big expectations of it. But also, I think that the release itself, like in a theater that was near where I lived at the time, where I was just going to movies nonstop. I was just watching whatever the hell was at the theater at the time.
Yeah.
And I don't remember this having like a really wide... I mean, I watched Cartoon Network a lot as a kid.
Yeah, no, me too, definitely.
And of course, they advertised the hell out of it because, it's a Cartoon Network property. Of course, they're going to advertise it. But I don't remember seeing it much anywhere else. I mean, also, like, when I was looking this up, it wasn't even an international release.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
And that's like that could be a big hit against a movie if it's not released internationally.
Yeah. Because
a lot of theater going money goes in for the international sales as well. And when I found that out, I was looking it up, and they said like, when it was released, overseas, it was released on DVD. Like direct to DVD, so it wasn't in theaters anywhere else. And I don't know if that is if that's a thing of the time, or if that was just like some weird decision that, that they wasn't really thought over very well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't think either of us could say.
No, I'm not asking.
It's definitely an interesting thing to think about, and it would have been interesting to know what may have happened there, but and I think about it too, and I'm sure especially it being like Cartoon Network's first feature, and only feature that I can think of.
Yeah, well, that brings up another thing, is that they were really banking on this to be a success for their next movie, which was going to be Samurai Jack.
Right.
And because this movie didn't do well, they just canned that altogether, which is a shame, because I would have loved to have seen some.
I'm sure a lot of people would have loved.
Because I love that show. Samurai Jack is like one of the most like artistic, and
it's so artistic, but it's like the most cinematic a TV cartoon has ever been.
Exactly. And I was watching a couple Powerpuff Girl episodes, and comparing it to this movie, there are very very grand cinematic shots in that. I mean, they did take some more liberties with what they were going to do with, posing and angles and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So,
and there's these like big, sparse, sprawling compositions and stuff that they'll use at times. So you can definitely see they pushed it a little bit more here and there. But
and compared to the show, I mean, it's really simplistic. That'll be a really big word throughout this entire thing. It has a style that is very just limited, and I don't want to really say limited because that would, I feel like that's not the word to call it. It's a style that is very easy to find appealing, and it's very shapely. I mean, like the characters themselves, the main Powerpuff Girls, they're just circles with, like, I guess like a square.
Well, they're all like, I mean,
but they're very
part,
recognizable. Yeah, but they're really recognizable. I mean, these are
they're very iconic.
Yeah,
they're an iconic combination. The trio, the colors.
I would even say marketable. I mean, they're very
they definitely are.
They're like Sanrio characters in that sense. Like how simplistic that they look, and I almost feel like there wasn't really a whole lot of marketing for them in the first place.
Well, I think part of the reason why the marketing was kind of all over the place is because it was the show that was done by, I mean, everyone on it back then was, pretty young and just doing the kind of stuff that they like. So if you watch the show, it's really fun. It's really funny. It's like all this material that like guys in their 20s love.
Yeah.
And then you put that against what I'm sure when it comes to marketing, like, oh, it should be girly stuff and makeup kits and whatever. Yeah. And like, I think, a lot of the people from the marketing side of things would be a little bit more confused and go, well, which way do we take this?
Right. Yeah.
And have more of a hard time trying to like set up that package and that presentation.
Yeah, because definitely marketing in that, especially in that era, probably didn't know what it was doing, especially because it was like, okay, well, should we market this to girls? Oh, boys seem to like this a lot. Should we market it to boys? We really have no idea what the hell we're going to do.
But the main characters are girls. How do we market it to boys?
It's so pink. I mean, the show has so much pink in it. Is not for girls?
Yeah.
I digress. Looking at this movie, I mean, I'm going to go back to what I feel is a detriment to the success of this movie. Is like even the release of the DVD is just in standard view. There's no widescreen release of this. And that's actually telling of a lot of Warner Brothers DVDs because I have so many Warner Brothers movies and it's so difficult to find one in widescreen. I mean, when I went to look for a lot of the Warner Brothers movies like Cats Don't Dance and Iron Giant. Well, Iron Giant now it's widescreen because Brad Bird's such a big name now, and they want to they want to redo that.
And,
but also
but aside from that, generally they've just really missed the mark there. And
I don't understand that. It's really careless, honestly, and I think that there's like, since there has been so much arguments about that now, it's kind of like they're now sort of leaning like, oh, let's preserve these for how people really need to see them. It's a preservation thing. It's like people need to see these movies, and I'm just gonna say like all kinds of movies. If it was made in widescreen, it should be seen in widescreen.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just
definitely
be. Yeah, I mean, like I know that standard TV size at the time was a big thing because let's face it, we didn't have HD TVs with the huge
and I mean
monitors.
It's understandable to a degree,
but
for a certain amount of time, like it was just that was the direction they were heading in. I mean, heck, they even filmed a few movies during a chunk of time in standard.
Right.
Like And that's the weirdest thing to think about.
Yeah.
Like going backwards.
Yeah. But it's really like they treated this like a TV show in itself because, it's based off a TV show. But it's like,
right.
Yeah, and I understand that. But if you want to like actually really preserve the movie, you really need to show it in its aspect ratio the way it is. And I can't even find like a widescreen version online.
Yeah.
It was difficult to find this copy.
Right.
I mean, you should have seen it. Okay, there was a sticker on the box that was from Blockbuster Video, and that's no longer around anymore. It's But the sticker on that was $49.99. What the hell? That had to have been a joke. I know it's like. I mean, look, I don't even think like most DVD releases at the time were that much.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why the hell that was $49.99.
Yeah, I could not.
But I mean, like, I got it at a used price. It was just funny to see that sticker from like some, company that's gone now.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so the style of the show, really simplistic, and the show is really well composed. So moving on, we go from the professor who makes the Powerpuff Girls in his lab, and that's opens up the credit sequence, and it's really, really neat, like music that's going on. Very, very pumped and amped. It's kind of like gets you ready to know what you're gonna go for, like a really action-packed sort
I remember
of movie.
one aspect that I really loved about that whole beginning sequence. I remember they were saying that they had like boarded it in a way where when it was the credits for this or the credits for that, Mojo's running around the lab breaking or dealing with different things that had to do with whatever that was.
Right.
So it's like, animation timing. He's breaking a clock.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't notice that.
Color. He's breaking glasses full of colorful liquid.
Oh, that's funny.
Just stuff like that. I was that's a nice little touch.
Yeah, it's really subtle.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that really subtle.
Within what the context of.
Yeah,
what
it shows that they were having fun with it, and it's like a lot of movies do that. But it's like it disappears. Like I know that Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like I remember there was a background artist that came in and showed us that big like landscape of Paris, and he pointed out that one of the houses had like a Mickey Mouse styled satellite on top of it, and stuff like that. It's like I wish I could point that out when I watch the movie, but it's like this is. That comes with the territory, and I know that they really have a lot of fun with that, and they can get away with a few things.
Yeah,
like I know that there's a newspaper that they keep reading, and there's like the CD to the Gorillas on there, right next to Craig McCracken's mug. It's like, but that's like a nice little nod to, it's like, oh hey, these guys must have really liked Gorillas, so they just put that in there. And I love the little subtlety stuff of that. And there's also like there's a building that has caricatures of all the artists that were working on the movie at the time.
They were like the people inside the building.
And I love seeing caricatures of
it's
fun, but that's something for us. I mean,
totally. But I like that, even though that stuff is in there all throughout, that it isn't done in a way that it's taking away from anything else. It's hidden nice, exactly. and you can enjoy it and then come back, on multiple
and see
viewings and see that stuff.
Yeah. Pause those things. Like what do they call them?
Easter eggs,
pause jokes or something. Yeah, Easter eggs. But I mean, like, there's those pause jokes where it's like you pause the screen and you read whatever the hell's on the newspaper and stuff like that.
No, totally.
So he makes the Powerpuff Girls, and the Powerpuff Girls, like, they're bubbly right off the bat. It's like this kind of like they're these human beings that have just been made out of thin air, and they can talk like immediately. Yeah. I mean, like, when you go into that new, it's I would think that would be kind of weird, like, but I mean, it's a detail that is really highly overlooked because of the fact that the show has already
existed for a certain amount of time. No, definitely.
But I mean,
I think when something is is known well enough by enough people at that point, you can kind of forgive that a little bit. And I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's just maybe just hard for me to imagine
Yeah.
watching that without having seen or heard of the show itself.
Yeah. And okay, so we get like a look at two. The professor's really excited. He has like daughters now. He basically treats them like daughters right out of the bat. He's like, you can tell that he's a fatherly figure, and it's not really. It's not really a growth. It's just like almost immediate. It's like he knows that he created these intelligent beings, and now he has to take care of them because they're like little girls. And and I love that joke where it's like he goes off to get presents for them or something, and then he comes back and he says like, okay, note to self: fathers don't leave their children at home.
No, yeah. I think at least when I think about the story, and I may be jumping a little ahead here, but
yeah, go ahead.
Essentially, one of my favorite aspects of it as a movie, and why I think I like it so much, is at the end of the day, I think of it more like it feels more like, oh, this is Mojo's origin more than it's their origin. Like,
yeah,
it deals a lot with him and like. Their relationship a little bit, but like it's definitely pretty thick with his development as a character throughout this whole thing.
Well, the thing about that is that okay, we're gonna talk about Mojo Jojo right now. All right, so we'll just leave it at that. We're just say like, okay, the little girls were made. Now Mojo Jojo comes in. His origin was basically the fact that being part of the entire laboratory scene when Chemical X blew up, it also affected him.
Yeah.
And it made him super smart and everything.
Yeah.
He just kind of leaves. Like it's like a quiet scene, and then he shows up later and he doesn't really explain like where he comes from or anything. That was something that was explained in the show. And I almost want to feel like they could have saved that for the movie. Because that would have been like a really interesting aspect is like all of a sudden, oh crap, what have I done in creating these little girls? I've also created a monster, and there could have been that.
Yeah,
there could have been that clash, and I'm talking in a story sense,
right?
But you can't really do that because it's already been established in the show.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I feel like there was a missed opportunity there.
Probably. I mean, the thing is, I mean, I can't remember exactly the timeline between when they would have done that episode and then when they went to do the movie and what Craig wanted to do and like whatnot. I know in that sense it's like we established
there was no way
it, so we're kind of retreading it, but
there's no way to predict that you're going to make a movie, so it's like you don't really have that in your head. But going back to that, it's like a lot of the movies that were made from TV shows like Rugrats and Doug, they were basically like their own episodes. Like it wasn't like an origin story, so it was like it was just
a long episode.
Yeah, it was like
maybe the stakes are a little bit higher, but that's about it.
And the stakes are pretty high in this one too.
No, definitely,
all things considered. But this one is more like we're developing the characters as we watch them continue on, and then there's this whole huge to do about what's going on. But talking about Mojo Jojo, they don't know that he's an evil person.
No.
So it's like, I think that helps the story. I mean, like, given the fact that his origin is the fact that he was in that lab, I think it's well hinted already in the beginning of it that's fine, and that they can go ahead with whatever.
Yeah.
But it does help the fact that he is like more mysterious in this one, but at the same time, it's like they kind of play that up like a little bit too much. It's like, oh my god, this guy's the evil guy. We're going to the inevitable where it's like, okay, when is he going to betray them and say like, okay, I'm the villain.
I think on that end of it, that's sort of the double-edged element to, okay, well, we're so used to doing things on a TV schedule. We're so used to making things this strong and read this clearly right away.
Yeah.
That doing it on the longer like form like this, ultimately makes it, like, oh, I could tell that. I could see that from a mile away.
And then, yeah, it just was funny to me, like, watching it again and thinking, like, I'm just, like, thinking on the level of a person who has never seen Powerpuff Girls before.
Yeah.
And is going to the movie theater and seeing, like, an animated movie. It's like, I would think, like, I would know what's going on. It can easily be told to a person who has not seen the show what this is about.
Yeah.
Now it's up to them to decide, like, whether this is going to be, good or not. But that's all due to taste or anything. But yeah, it's still a well told story. It's more simplistic than I would say like another movie would be, which this movie takes its sweet time. I mean, it honestly, there are moments where there is also silence.
Yeah.
And static shots that will take a pretty long time just to look at that. And I don't know if that's a detriment to it, but it's certainly really nice and cinematic in that sense. Where it's like you have that shot, like, I'm going to say like Mojo Jojo looking out of the box to the Powerpuff Girls and talking to them. You have that shot where they're outside in the rain and they're just kind of standing there blinking while Mojo is talking. And while I do like that shot and I do like a lot of the way everything is composed, it goes on for a little too long.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you have a movie, and I'm not saying like, cut to everything and everything has to be really fast.
You're trying to find like a good balance with a lot of stuff and a good pace for things, and so that stuff has room to breathe, but at the same time, things don't linger too long or anything like that.
Yeah. But I really like it in the fact that it will take its time and it will just stop and have these moments, because not every moment is going to be like really out there in action. You're going to save all the action and the fast-paced things for the action scenes.
Yeah.
But when it comes to something that is really just, more thoughtful and something like that, I mean, I don't feel like I've seen that enough before. Pixar movies were like a big thing where they would take their time with these moments that like are very emotional and sad.
Yeah.
But with the Powerpuff Girls movie, it's like that was something that was like a traditional. That was even before the big Pixar movies would start doing that. I feel, and I don't feel like people give that movie enough credit in that regard. So it's really nice to see that, and it was really good. But I can see why some moments were just a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Like, given for example, just the static shots.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but going back, before Mojo Jojo, I'm going to say Mojo Jojo so many times in this podcast.
Hey, man.
It's like, you can't say Mojo without Jojo. So it's Mojo Jojo.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back, they're sent to kindergarten and they're doing really good. They're just regular girls having fun, and then their superpowers start showing up, and they can't really control it. It's more like they're being very playful about it. They're just like, they have these superpowers that, they're playing tag and they're going around the city and they're wreaking havoc, but they can't really like pull themselves back from that, because they have that mindset of they're kindergartners, right?
Well, yeah, they're
grade schoolers.
It's like they're
young
basically like, I think, like preschool.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's like preschool. I think so.
They're pretty well developed for.
I thought Pokeokes was.
Was it a preschool? I can't remember.
Maybe it's a kindergarten. Either way.
Either way, they're very young.
Yes. The point is, they're young children. They can communicate and they can understand a lot of things.
They're very well developed for preschoolers.
But for this movie at least, they're a little bit, fresher and a little bit more like taking it all in and like. Of course they're going to do they don't really know their own strength. They don't really even fully understand what they're doing.
And I love
they're
that.
Just taking it in and having fun. And it's definitely a really nice
That was a really great
nice
moment.
Scene. Yeah.
No, it's a really great moment where it shows, what their powers are a problem for them, as well as, also being, like, if you were a kid and had superpowers, you probably would be pretty reckless.
No, of course.
You wouldn't really think about other things.
I mean,
especially if you were just born the other day.
Children are reckless as it is, and they don't have superpowers.
Yes, children are assholes.
Well, they'll run around, they'll break things, they'll make a mess. They don't care. And that I think comes through very well with them as being, fresh children.
And with
they are just taking it all in, taking their time with just having fun.
Well, and with that, they basically call attention to the mayor, who is really a doofus. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like that pickle guy. Because he looked like the mayor, only had like a bubbly nose or something, and had the same voice. That was like really weird. I mean, like, I know the mayor likes pickles and everything, but it's like
in all honesty,
he was borderline creeper,
from my point of view, like he's been funny. I liked him a lot as a character.
Yes,
but
on the show,
they definitely took some of the stuff, like his love for pickles, a little far.
Yeah,
like
I would say I would say it was not the best introduction of the mayor, honestly.
I could agree with that.
There could have been a better way to introduce him, and like, how he's really aloof and everything. But it's like you also have other characters like Cerebellum and stuff like that, which doesn't take a huge role in this movie, but she's there. She's more like, oh, hey, there she is, and let's have fun with how we're gonna hide her face, because that's the whole running gag with her, is that you can't see her face.
No, you definitely have to have that in
but
there.
But the whole town is like really angry at the Powerpuff Girls because they do these powers. The professor says, like, well, you got to tone down your powers. You can't, when you're around public, you have to really know to hold back, and but this all causes a ruckus, and it basically, they become outcasts, basically. It's because the professor he's also sent to jail for this.
Right.
For some reason, everyone knows that he made these. Well, actually, he does. That would make sense, because he's the one that brought them to kindergarten and everything. So it's like,
well, yeah,
but it's just funny how it's like his house is just surrounded by the city, and
right, the angry mob.
Yeah, the angry mob mentality. Of course, that goes with every sort of chaotic happening.
Yeah.
And so he's sent to jail. The girls can't get picked up, so they walk home, and they go to the back alley. And they are met with my favorite villains of the series, the Gangreen Gang, which honestly for me is like a great, like, little nod to the characters of the show, because these characters don't really need to be there. I mean, but it is great that we're introduced to them in a style that is like, we're not veering somewhere else. This is just like, okay, these are bad guys in a bad alley.
Well, and that point in the story, it's like, they want to have that introduction to Mojo mysteriously and all of that.
Mojo is the main focus as a villain.
Right.
Everything else is just kind of like nods.
The Gangreen Gang really beautifully there. I also loved just that very brief moment earlier in the movie with Fuzzy.
Fuzzy Lumpkins, store. Yeah.
The way they drew him, I love it. But yes, when the Gangreen Gang is there, I remember one thing that Craig had said was, there's that shot with Grubber, and he's the one that looks the most like Rat Fink drawing.
Him. Yeah,
he's
yeah,
the one
yeah.
with the eyes bulging out and the tongue hanging out.
Yeah, the silent one that just looks...
Yes, he will do the, like tongue thing and whatever. But there's this shot where he's coming towards them, and it's one drawing. And I love that they do that, because it's so limited, and it's funny, and it's like, it's just a fun drawing to look at. And so that could be said about a lot of
that could be said about a lot of poses in this entire movie, is that they really I like the way that they compose the characters in a way that it's like I would like to see a little bit more animation in them, but the way that they made them so limited is that it's good that they're so limited because they have such strong poses and style.
Yeah.
And so it works in that sense.
Yeah.
But with that said, I love when the main Green Gang guy, Ace, yeah,
yes,
and he comes up in like that drenched hair, and they have that shot. And it's like that is the scene where I think is the most like Gorillas.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
it's oozing.
It's oozing
right
Gorillas. Yeah, and I guess that's why I like it. And it's like it's pretty well animated in the way they do that, and that's why I like Gorillas videos is that they're very well animated, but they have those strong poses.
Yeah.
That really fit to it. And I think
I mean that combination of guys like Jamie Hewlett and Robert Valley, like putting those music videos together, they really know how to draw characters really strongly. I mean, they're such excellent draftsmen, and there are definitely a lot of fantastic draftsmen on this movie.
Well, we're going off tangent here. I just wanted to mention that was like another great shot. That I would say that's my second favorite shot compared to the first one.
Right.
And I would have liked to have seen more of that, but given what it is, it's still really. I mean, there's strong stuff in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Gangreen Gang is punished by Mojo Jojo,
right?
Because he comes in, saves the day, and basically this is the start of his trickery to get the Powerpuff Girls to do what he says, and in order to, and that like happens in an instant. It's like
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they make no effort to kind of draw it out.
No,
it's like, and I think, you're gonna help me now.
You know, it's like they build it up, and then it's just like. Just run with it.
Yeah, instant. Let's go with it.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I don't mind that.
No, not at all.
Yeah. We're like almost halfway through the movie already. And
I mean, again, it's you know, you can boil it down to it's a drawn out episode. You know, and I mean some parts are embellished a lot more, and some parts are, you know, kind of dragged out a bit, but you know, at the end of the day, that's generally the way that it's written. And you know, it again, I think it just comes back to the fact that it's this,
which is
all this experience with TV and having to you know, kind of treat things in that sort of way, like that's their experience right there.
So so Mojo Jojo and the Powerpuff Girls, they basically create his lab where he creates this thing for his plan. He says plan quite a lot. My biggest problem is that they have this one shot that they do twice. Do you know the one that I'm talking about? Where he's like, we did good, and then, yes, girls, you did good. Very good indeed. And the girls, like, come down. He has the same pose and same animation in two scenes. And that really bothers me because that shows... I mean, they could have done it in another angle, in another way. I mean, they couldn't even... They shouldn't even change the line. To me, it's like, that's really noticeable, especially to an audience. Right. It's like, when you reuse animation that is, like, very prominent, especially for a scene like that...
Yeah. I mean...
It's going to be noticeable.
Close up and whatnot.
And I don't even know if it was intentional. I mean... Maybe?
It could have been. It might not have been. Either way...
He would add time.
Again, I think it's just that thought that, well, if we're doing that again, instead of doing a new shot, they just do the same
do the same thing.
Because, you know, again, I think at the end, you keep coming to that fact that, well, this is how they do it with TV. So, you know, they're going to make those mistakes, and they do.
Yeah.
You know, because it is a different... way of telling a story, because it's such a difference in time. You know, telling an 11-minute story is so different than telling an hour and a half story. So basically they're helping out Mojo Jojo. They go to a zoo where you find out more of his plan, was where he's like taking monkeys from the zoo, brings them in, pours Chemical X to them. Meanwhile, the girls think that they're going to be doing something good because Mojo is basically saying, Mojo Jojo. He's basically saying that he's going to make the city better.
You know, that's his whole trick to help him out, because the
Right,
girls
right.
are like,
Well,
they're already
using-
really sad because
using-
they're outcasts. So,
Using two elements against them,
yeah.
which is one, their naivete,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just the fact that they don't have any experience with people like that, and then at the same time, the fact that they had such a negative experience already with the whole town, and they really want to make up for it.
Yeah. So basically this all backfires on them. You know, it's because all the apes are now super intelligent and they're attacking the city, and Mojo basically points them out and says like, the Powerpuff Girls helped me, and the girls get like so upset, and they look to the professor and they says like, you believe us, we were trying to help the city, and it's like, and the professor's just kind of like, I don't know what to think.
Well,
and that's what drives them away. That's basically that's the scene.
I like that moment a lot.
I do like that moment too.
I mean, just that breakdown of, because you know,
well,
if you were in the professor's shoes.
Well, the
you
entire
would know.
yeah, exactly. The entire time, the professor is just like, oh, these are just little girls. They're just trying their best. They just have superpowers and everything. He's like that the entire time. But when something like this catastrophic thing that they help develop, you know, it's gonna be a moment where it's like, maybe I did something wrong.
Yeah.
You know, let's say, so that's a really good moment, and that's what drives them away, because
when they go up into space.
They go up into space, and Mojo is basically taking over the city.
Yeah.
What I really find, and this is just another story issue with the fact that if I was a person who saw this for the first time without having seen the TV show, what is Mojo Jojo's motivation? To just be evil, right? I mean,
at that point, really,
but
really analyzing it, it does feel like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like he doesn't even have a speech. I mean, Mojo Jojo has speeches up the yin yang, but But I mean, like he doesn't really. I don't think
it's addressed.
He doesn't really have like he doesn't say like. You know, and this is where I feel like that moment where he says, like, when I was in the lab, you didn't pay attention to me at all. I was just a simple ape, and you just ignored me for these stupid little girls, and I'm just so sick of humans. I want apes to basically take over the city. And I feel like that would have been an interesting idea if they went that way.
Right.
But it doesn't go that way. It's like, I mean, he's a supervillain, plain and simple. That's fine. I mean, that's like the most simplistic way you could introduce a villain.
Yeah, I think, that ultimately they went, instead of going that route, they just went with, well, face value, he's a supervillain, but really they wanted to focus on, like, he's like, look at what I did, and then that blows up in his face more.
Yeah, okay, so continuing on with that blows up in his face, because all of these apes are now super intelligent as well.
Right.
And they all basically become evil masterminds that want to devise their own plans to take over, and he's kind of like, he's no longer in the spotlight.
Wait, no, I made you.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like,
listen to me, and everyone else is like, no, I'm super intelligent.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do what I want.
Yeah. And there's some. I will be honest. Like, every one of those apes is hilarious.
No, totally. That's definitely one of the most.
I
fun
love the
parts
Jimmy
of
Durante
it.
one, because it's just like throughout all of these. You remember the name? It's funny because the only one I remember was blah 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 blah.
Oh yes,
but we'll go to that. Yeah, we'll go to that one. But yeah, this Jimmy Durante monkey basically, throughout all these speeches that the monkeys say what their plans are and what they are, is like, and they're all really inventive. I mean, I love that aspect of like taking one idea and then doing a ton of different things with that idea. And it's like, you have the gorilla, he's the one that, you know, has these huge metal fists, and then you have like these monkeys that are like the barrel of monkeys that just kind of hook to each other.
Right.
And those are all really fun little things that they can animate with. And then the Jimmy Durante monkey just shows up, and then there's like this minute-long song and dance. It's like, I'm gonna throw banana peels on
it's just such a fun moment.
It is. And then it continues on with more.
I think that stuff again is coming from the strong element of their TV experience, which is
the humor.
Yeah, doing really humorous stuff,
Yeah.
especially with the villains. They're great at that.
Yeah, the timing of a lot of the humor in this movie is great.
Yeah,
because it's another one of those things where it's like it takes its time.
Yeah,
it's like you don't want to just like go with a gag like immediately. You want to have like the setup.
Yeah.
Then the gag, and then it's
the payoff.
Yeah, the payoff. I love stuff like that. And then you have things that like come by really quick. It's like, I'm blah 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 blah, and I'm gonna make a thing that makes
I'm putting in this. Yeah. That makes my tornado.
Yeah. And that one's Rob Paulson. Who voiced that monkey, and that was like that's my most memorable monkey outside of the Jimmy Durante one.
And Jimmy Durante.
But anyway, while this is all happening, while this is all happening, the girls are on a comet in space, and this is the most character developed moment for them.
Definitely,
because for all three of them. I mean, it's kind of interesting to note that there's like this silent. It's silent. There's really no sound to this other than the girls talking to each other.
Yeah, that element of this scene, also in direct contrast to the loud chaos of the monkeys below, is really, really well done. Like that makes the chaos down there feel bigger. It makes the silence like more deafening, and the focus of their conversation and their character development and what the realization that they're coming to, so much more of a focus.
Blossom is like, she's basically done everything that she can logically to kind of like figure out, okay, we shouldn't have used our powers.
Yeah.
This was all our fault. Buttercup is just like, oh, I'm pissed off with everyone. I don't like, I think they deserve whatever the hell they're getting. And Bubbles is just like, she's in the middle where cause it's really sad. I mean, she's lost a lot of stuff that she's loved. And, a lot of this can be told just by looking at them. It's like you really can tell the personalities with. I think that's really strong. Just by the way they were designed, and I don't know if that's bad to say because maybe it's cliche to say like, oh, this one is smart, this one's the bubbly one, this one's the strong one, and because of colors and appearance and everything like that. But it really is. That really helps.
I think it's in service of it. I mean, having something be that much more iconic, and not just iconic, but that combination of iconic and I get them right away.
Right.
Like I know what's going on.
And it does help, especially for someone who has just come into this movie. It's like, again, it's like I've seen this show. I already know what they're like. As a movie that would be character development, this isn't really strong to me because I kind of already know everything that's happening.
Right. But, and I mean, I think that's simply because of that, because they have that background and, to its detriment or not, like they play it that way, and they pretty much are like, we're going to tell this story and we're going to do it this way. And, we're pretty much like, hey, if you know it, great. If not, there's a show out there. Go watch it.
Yeah. So basically they're all together. They discuss with each other like what, their personalities, what they should do. Bubbles hears that people are in pain on Earth because of her super hearing, I suppose. And this basically triggers them all, and they're sort of like, they need to help. This triggers their superhero instinct. They really need to help because they have that ability to do that.
Right.
So they go down back to Earth, and they see all this chaos, and they're just... the rest of the movie is just this big action scene. Character development's over. The rest is just like punching and hitting.
Right. Well, the thing that I like especially of that sequence is like the arc of them going, we need to help. That's the initial sort of springboard.
Yeah, it starts off with them saving people.
Right, that's what they're trying to do.
And then they
getting to the point where they're so frustrated because they can't save
Buttercup
everyone.
Especially.
Yes.
Because she keeps helping that damn dog that keeps running around getting in trouble. And
I love that dog.
Yeah, and she finally... the talking dog. Yeah. Does it have a name, by the way?
I don't remember.
Or is it just talking dog?
It might be just talking dog.
I just
the moment from the show that I love was when he had, like, there was traffic stop.
Yeah.
And he's in the car and he's like, boy, I can talk, but I sure as hell can't drive.
Yeah, I love that. I love that entire thing. But yeah, it gets to the point where Buttercup gets so frustrated that she just punches one of the monkeys, and like she punches the monkey, and it flies off, and that's where they discover it's like,
well, because there's that moment of, no, what did I do?
Yeah,
wait, no,
this is
this is good.
Violence is the answer. And throughout that entire time, it's like it's basically a bunch of scenes where they fight off the monkeys, and and once all the monkeys are dealt with, Mojo Jojo is left, and he kind of puts more Chemical X into him. Yeah. And this is probably the most animated scene, his transformation, where it's like it starts off where he just kind of like morphs into this giant beast.
Yeah,
and while I will say that it is a cop-out to do as the last thing, it's honestly, at this point, it fits to the entire concept of the entire movie.
Yeah.
At that point, he has the Powerpuff Girls in his grasp. He tells them, it's like, look at them. These are the people that you want to save. They hated you. They wanted you destroyed. And you should join me because I will make the world a better place, and together we'll take over. And this is where they just say like, oh, the difference between you and us is that you're evil.
Yeah.
So it's simple as that. You're evil. We'll stop you, and they do. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I know it's very, very simplistic. It is. But it's definitely, it's fun in the way that it's done.
Honestly, honestly now, I can't really think of any other movie at the time that would do. I can think of movies now that would probably are more to that sort of lieu of simplistic. I'm evil, and I mean, because like if you look at a lot of Disney movies, the villains, as simplistic as they may seem, there really is something more to them in the way that they're lovable villains, but at the same time, it's like there is a stake at hand. It's like they have
and a little bit more going on and whatnot. I mean, again, it's like what you had said, which is essentially that he doesn't really seem to have any motivation other than I'm evil now.
Right.
And it's very simple and it reads really well, but it definitely would have been interesting to see them dig a little deeper and try to, explore that more. I mean, again, because it's a feature and you have the time for it.
Yeah, just to me, in like a story aspect of it,
right,
I feel like there could have been like a little bit more to it. But being what it is, it's still, I mean, it works. Artistically, I will say, hands down, this is a fantastic freaking movie.
No, artistically, it's definitely one of my favorites. And again, it does a lot of things that they just don't do in feature,
I would love to see more stuff like that, and just like, because we see so much CG that is just like the same, and it's like I'm gonna say this a lot during the timeline of this podcast, is that I have this problem with Pixar eyes, in that every CG movie has the same damn irises, and they do not veer away from any of that. They do not try to go in a different direction with it. I
will say that I did see, and this isn't something that actually happened, but I did see something that someone posted and pointed out, where they had posted someone was talking about, the trailer for A Good Dinosaur,
Mm-hmm.
and they had posted this picture of the little human character from it, and it was this earlier rendering of him where he just had black pupils, and that was it. Solid black pupils.
Right.
And they were like, oh, I was really hoping they were going to stick with that, and they didn't. And, I think the
I have
idea
to look for that.
of,
I haven't seen that.
I'll have to find it and show it to you. But yeah, it's definitely.
There's only one movie that I've ever seen, a CG movie, that actually had different irises from everything else that I've seen, and it is a weird movie from Spain called Donkey X. And there's a chicken character in this. This is like a movie that it was not theatrically released. I bought this off like a bargain bin somewhere. Nice. But it's funny that the front cover is like, I'm going to talk about this at some point. It's seriously Donkey from Shrek.
Right.
The cover is just Donkey. It's right. But the rest of the movie is like, I'll talk about it sometime. But yeah, there's a chicken character in there, and the eyes are just like, one is the iris, and the other one is like crazy.
Yeah.
It's like just like a dot. And that is the only time I've ever seen that. I'm sure it's been in other movies, but to my memory, to my recollection, that's the only one that I've seen it from.
Yeah.
And okay, so but my point being is that in a world where CG has kind of, we're trying to do new things with CG in terms of style. I really feel like there could be more done.
Oh yeah, easily. I mean, I think
Powerpuff Girls.
If you look at TV animation compared to feature animation, there's like, oh, here's a tiny sliver of a pie, and then TV, oh, here's a whole pie,
right?
All kinds of stuff,
and it's funny because like
different directions.
The more that I've worked in animation, the more I've noticed how much TV animation is trying to become feature animation in the sense that we're having more ability to be more grandiose, have at least, I mean, you have to be conservative about it,
right?
But I'm noticing that there's a lot more dynamism to poses and sceneries and that's great. I would love to see that in an actual movie. I would love to see like a style that is much like a TV show, and just kind of like run with it. It's like kind of like,
I mean,
use that style.
The closest I feel like I ever get to see when it comes to CG animation and pushing things like that has got to be Hotel Transylvania, because Gendy made them push those poses, because he's drawing over their, what they're working on, and like, no, this pushed, this graphic. And then Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, like, they've been pushing stuff.
Actually, I would say more Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, because that seems a little bit more simplistic. Hotel Transylvania, it still has a lot of...
not so much design as it was pushed in the animation, which I loved about it. But design, it's more all over the place, because some characters are more pushed, and some are like a little too much. And as far as like texture and design and whatnot, but then it's like everything's kind of even, And I mean, I definitely understand that difference there. But as far as overall design with characters and stuff, they definitely pushed it a lot more with Cloudy, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, well, I liked it too. Well, anyway, we're going a little off topic here, but basically they save the day. The townspeople, very like, their mob mentality is helmed by the mayor, who says like, "Oh wow, you saved us. So would you mind if we're really sorry? Would you like to be our superheroes?" And they're basically accepted. And that's the end of the movie. Roll credits. Really, and I have to say, this movie, it was like really fast, and not only because like it was, even with its static moments, it goes by pretty damn fast. It's not even 70 minutes. It says on the back 73.
It does say 73.
But without the credits, it is easily 64 minutes, I would say.
I mean, what is it? I think I think I watched like Dumbo semi-recently or something.
Oh, Dumbo is easily the shortest movie that
Right.
Disney made.
And so, so I'm sitting there like, wow, this is a short movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I definitely get that feeling that I really haven't had in a very long time.
Yeah.
Which is, this is short.
Yeah. I don't.
And
I don't
there's
mind
nothing
that, but
wrong with that.
it's never. I honestly, I've never heard of that though.
Yeah.
When it comes to a movie, that I mean, beyond 1950, something like that,
Right,
where,
right.
where they had double features because movies
I
were
think
so damn
that
short.
falls in line with
Yeah.
just how they treat movies in general now. Not just
Yeah.
animation, but movies in general.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, especially with animation, is that it's like it's got to be bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be, this big budget blowout blockbuster thing.
And I think maybe that's what people were expecting, though. Do you
I
think?
mean, with this,
Yeah.
do you maybe, but it's hard to say, just because I would have to, like, I feel like I'd want more access to like kind of what people thought and felt at the time.
Yeah.
Or at least like, I guess if I were to look up like what other movies came out around that time, and you have kind of an idea of like the movie landscape.
Yeah, I can't. Well, yeah, this is like this was also released before 9/11 as well, and that was like that was a huge hit to theatrical like all entertainment really.
Yeah.
But I digress. So that was the movie. That's the Powerpuff Girls movie, and I'm going to lay on a couple little trivia tidbits to you. So when this movie came out, it was panned for being too violent.
Right.
Roger or Roper, I don't think Siskel was, I think Siskel passed away before that. But it was like Ebert and Roper, they gave it 2 thumbs down because they said like it was too violent. But it was like it was critically acclaimed for being a very artistic movie and great, but the thing was like too violent? It's a cartoon.
Well, one, it's a cartoon. Two, I think
they could get away with a lot because of the fact that it was these cartoony characters, and they don't really have fists. They have like these little nubs.
Right. Well, all right. From our point of view,
right,
you should be able to get away with more. From their point of view, and I think this is the problem with critics when it comes to animated features, is they have a preconceived notion about what an animated movie should be. And if they're so used to movies being these sweet family, whatever, and no violence at all, then when something like this comes along and has any violence, it's too violent.
And I think that's what the problem with this is, that when it's a movie, you kind of have to go with what the message that comes across with it.
Right.
And I think what a lot of critics thought is that, violence is the answer.
Yeah,
because that's really that's really what it comes down to. When they need to solve the problem of all these monkeys, they go to their fists. They basically say, "Oh yes, that's how we should do it. We should punch them and kill them."
Right, punch the bad guys.
But that's the whole idea.
Trying to save everyone, which is a much more uphill battle.
Right. But at the same time, it's like that's the whole idea of the show. It's about basically fun, cartoony, slapstick punching and
that juxtaposition of these cute little girls that are beating up big scary monsters.
And that's what's funny. I mean, that's probably the basis of how it got sold.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
but from it, I can understand a critic's, like a moviegoer's outlook of it is that it's too violent. Violence is the answer, and especially. Especially before 9/11, in that movies were kind of like they would have a solution, but it wouldn't be very like violent. It would be a means to an end. I mean, it's like, so I don't know. I can understand their perspective in this, but I still think it's like flawed because it's a cartoon. But that's just me, No,
okay. No, I agree.
So. Craig McCracken's original college short for this was Whoop Ass Stew.
Yep.
Do you remember why? Do you know why? Because I don't have the answer.
Oh, well, I remember that he said at the time, he called them the Whoop Ass Girls because, at the time he was really into saying like a friend of his or him were really into saying like open up a can of whoop ass at the time.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, oh, like saying that whoop ass, yeah. And then
What can we connect with this?
then
Right?
he said there was a song by I forget who, but they had this lyric that says my roof has walls, but he thought he misheard the lyrics as my whoop ass balls. And so he was just really into the word whoop ass.
Okay.
And so,
Yeah.
it was originally, sugar, spice, everything nice, and
Right.
an accidental can of
A
whoop ass.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
they ended up getting greenlit for the show, they had to change it to something else.
Oh yeah,
and they came up with Chemical
I don't
X.
expect them to make a show called Whoop Ass Stew. It's
No,
but
I mean,
But
at
it's
the
just-
time though,
it's just funny.
At the time though, they seemed a little more open to that stuff, which is why the original shorts were Whoop Ass Stew and
Yeah.
the Whoop Ass Girls.
It was a good idea. I mean,
No, and I mean,
all
it comes
things
through.
considered,
That's
it's
why
a really interesting idea.
That's why it was around for so long.
Yeah, and of course, I mentioned before, this is the only Cartoon Network theatrical release. They were going to plan on more, which was Samurai Jack, but it was canceled because of the poor reception.
And I mean, that's such a shame, especially now. Like, I know that there's definitely a lot of people that would still love to see that happen.
Yes.
The one thing that I'm like super bummed about is just the fact that Mako, the guy who does the voice for Aku, had passed away.
That's right.
And that guy was
He was fantastic.
so fantastic, so excellent in his range.
I loved his inflection.
His inflection, the notes, like how high he could get with it. And it was funny. I remember hearing who's it, Phil Lamar, who did the voice for Jack,
Yes.
describing him as like being able to do that laugh that he'd do, go to the moon and back, like you'd be out of breath, any other voice actor, and he's still going.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Yeah. Well, you can't go back to the past and fix things, but
No,
that
not
is
at
a
this
real
point.
that is a real shame. However, there are Samurai Jack comics that I've been collecting that are really fantastic. I mean, it's nowhere near the show, but honestly,
for a comic this late from when they did it,
if you're gonna bring something back, you can bring it back in comic book form, and that's what I noticed a lot of things are doing right now. And honestly,
definitely.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I mean that's a good venue to go to. So
no, for sure. I mean, more of that.
another thing that I wanted to talk about, in the DVD, there's a special feature that is a test sequence, and the entire sequence is completely original. And what I'm thinking is like, I think this was basically an animation test for what overseas or wherever they had this animated. I don't think it was animated in-house. I mean, everything like layout and everything was done in-house, but I'm sure they had the same sort of plan leveling of how they would usually do their TV show, in which they would do the storyboards and all the visual aspects of it, and then they would ship it overseas and have it completed there.
Yeah.
So this test sequence really shows like, I mean, it just, without dialogue, it just goes through thing after thing after thing, and they're all special effects. So I'm thinking it was just to see if they could do something new with technology that would work with the realm of the traditional aspect of it.
Right.
Which is what's kind of interesting to me. And I think if you have the DVD, you should look it up, because it's just a neat little tidbit to me. Because I've always loved seeing animation studio tests.
Yeah.
Because usually before a production finds a studio to do their animation, they usually have them go through tests as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes those tests are like really awesome. I mean, they'll blow you out of the water. Some are not so great. I mean,
that's the process. You get some
is.
places where it's like, they didn't really get it, and other places where it's like they got it.
Yeah, but basically these tests are just there to basically test the waters of the studio that they're going to send animation to, and they'll say like yes or no, and it's basically to win the hearts of the production.
Right, the pre-production and
Yeah,
the production
and I'm wondering
houses, the studios.
I'm wondering if this test sequence is what that was all about.
I mean, it may have been that combined with testing out what can we do if we're going to do something on this scale.
Yeah.
Another thing I loved on the DVD, and I don't know if you were going to talk about this or not, is they have this short that played before the movie in the theater.
Oh, the chicken scratch short.
Yes,
I forgot to talk about
Chicken Scratch
that.
from Dexter's Lab.
Yeah, which is really weird. I remember seeing it in theaters, and I was going, what the hell am I looking at?
I mean, I love it.
No, I mean,
it's
I
so
love it for a
weird.
Dexter's Laboratory thing, but it's like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Well, they're getting weird with it, and I love it just because it's so,
they were getting
stuff.
weird to say it lightly. Jeez, they were going all out.
Well, yeah.
It was like that rat fink you were saying. Like basically every drawing looked like a rat fink drawing.
Again,
so.
I think because a lot of the design and the actual character layout was done by Craig Kelman, and he is just crazy. Like, I mean, his stuff's so good.
I know about
but
that.
it's definitely like definitely like it's on another level.
Yeah, it is hilarious. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
But seeing that in the theater before the movie, it's like I didn't really expect it. I was just like, whoa, what the hell happened to Dexter?
I wish they would show more shorts just before movies. Like show more.
Yeah, me too.
Animated content
that aren't lava.
Not lava.
So anyway, we're gonna start finishing up now. But I have a question for you, Rob. What is your favorite Powerpuff Girls episode?
Well, it's funny because of course I have one. And it's an episode called Jewel of the Isle. And this is a weird note that I'm just going to say. So I'm currently working over at DreamWorks Animation. And the guy who's show running, but the guy who's show running on the show that I work on, is Dave Smith, and he boarded my favorite episode.
Oh, cool.
So that's a really weird round, like full circle thing for me.
For our listeners at home, you have to really understand that the animation industry is a very small place. I have met so many people who I've grown up watching cartoons from, and just average everyday people doing the same thing that you love to do, and that's really great. So no, that's really cool.
It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty cool how it's like it comes full circle like that.
He also, I think, had a hand in creating the Kusala Gooba Goop, which is one of my favorite characters.
The one that they really hate
from Dexter,
in the show.
Dexter hated him, but
everyone hated him. I remember watching an episode. It's like, oh, that Coos guy? No, thank you.
It's that. I think that was the one where Dee Dee goes with him to the Land of Imagination,
right?
And
they carry him on into the Powerpuff show too.
Yeah, but he's built himself up as this like wonderful creature, and then they go to the world of imagination, and he's like the outcast, like everyone hates him.
Right.
Which
and
is
he's voiced by
hilarious.
Dom DeLuise, which is like fantastic in
That's
itself.
so good.
Any character who's voiced by Dom DeLuise is just a delight.
But yes, the episode that's my favorite is Jewel of the Isle.
Jewel of the Isle.
And that one I love because it's like a lot of my favorite animated shorts, like old Looney Tunes and Tex Avery, like Droopy cartoons. Like Deputy Droopy is one of my favorites. It's really strong. It sets it up really clearly, really quickly, right at the beginning, and then it just goes to town with jokes for the whole thing, and it's fantastic. But that one's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that I really loved about the Powerpuff Girls show, aside from the movie, is that while it has a really simplistic and shapely style to it, it doesn't feel limited. Yeah. I mean, it's like when they have like a design, it feels like they can actually go somewhere else with it. It's like you have that established look to it, but it's not like, oh, we have to keep it at 5 degrees at an angle.
What I think the thing is while it's limited, it doesn't feel cheap.
No.
And the reason it doesn't feel cheap is because they go about it so smart.
Yeah.
And they really have a lot of fun with what they're doing with it. Within those limitations, they're getting the most out of it, and that's what I think gives it a lot more depth and fun than you would get if it was just about being cheap.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, like that. There's definitely a lot of characters and episodes that I just love.
Yeah.
So much good stuff. I mean, like Jim Cummings as Fuzzy Lumpkins.
Yeah.
Such a fun character.
I love Chuck McCann as the Amoeba Boys. Because it's like I just love those characters just because like I love Chuck McCann's voice. He's such a delight because he's the Beagle Boys. And that's really great to see that. And for me, it's like when it comes to a favorite episode, it's like I don't really have one specific that comes like the title doesn't really come to mind, but I love anything with the Gangreen Gang. Because it's like those are my favorite villains of the entire show, just because they're so diverse from each other. But fantastic. They're unified, but they're also diverse. That's the thing.
They work so well together, but they're also distinct. And that's really a fun aspect of them because they can do their own thing, or they could move together as a group.
Right.
Like even just literally with the animation.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love that too.
Yeah. I just love stuff like that.
Yeah. So also the place where that came from, which was Craig going, oh, what if Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids were designed by Big Daddy Roth?
Oh, that's funny. I can see that. Yeah.
So you have that. That's why they look that way.
Yeah. Well, hey, so this show, like, how did it really influence you? I mean,
oh gosh,
looking at your art. Okay, I'm gonna like plug your website for a minute. It's Iza Art at
.tumblr.com.
IZARART.
It's IZAART.
.tumblr.com. Okay, so if you want to look at this guy's work, look that up on Tumblr. It's fantastic. He has.
Well, thank you.
You have like, well, the thing is, it's like when I look at this movie, it's like I can definitely see the influences right off the bat because you have a very good, you have a really good eye for color.
Oh, thanks.
And that's what really amazes me about a lot of your stuff is that you have a very shapely, stylistic look to your stuff.
Yeah.
But you're also really good at composing like where light will bounce off, like what is good. You have like a very good color theory in your head. That's really
you know what that
I'm
is, and thank you. I mean, I appreciate it, but what I think happened is there was some point for me earlier when in my artistic development where a bunch of people were like, "Oh, you're really good at color," and like it was like enough people said it that I'm like, I guess I'm good at color, and
you just went with it.
But then you get more confident in what you're doing and. You kind of trust your gut, but you also like, I gained more of an interest in it, and so I'm like, I want to mess with this more.
That's what's really cool, and it shows in your work because it's like you really like to dabble in it.
Yeah,
I've noticed you take like scenes from movies and you kind of simplify it in a way where it's like it's a thumbnail of this scene in a movie,
right,
and you simplify it to the fact like these are the colors that were used, and this is how it's presented, and this really sets the mood of that scene, and that's really powerful to me. So it's like that's what really impresses me about your work. But it's like,
thanks.
so I'm just gushing to you right now. The fact, don't get a big head over it. All right. So it's like I'm clearly better than you. No, I'm kidding.
I'll just remember this.
But yeah, is there anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed a lot of the series. Like, there's definitely a lot of great work and a lot of stuff that people
did you see this movie in theaters? I don't know if I asked you that already.
Yeah, I did see it in theaters. But it was so long ago.
Right. It was same here because I remember seeing it in theaters and I was fairly impressed seeing this thing on the screen, and it's very, very visually impressive, and I really enjoy it. I mean, simple story, but it can be forgiven for that.
Right.
Honestly.
But to get to see what they do visually on the big screen was such a treat for me at the time. I think
it was a treat for all of us because we really liked the show.
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, it's like at the time I was so sick of Rugrats.
That's practically the opposite. Here you go from like smooth, strong line design children to lumpy babies.
Lumpy babies.
With all kinds of lumpy goodness all throughout.
And the hair just coming out of place. Friggin'.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our discussion about the Powerpuff Girls movie. I'm guessing to say is like I've already discussed with Mike. This is not going to be a rating show. This is just basically general discussion.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna even think about the idea of putting ratings on the things because that's just ridiculous. But if you got a good idea of what we thought about the show or what we thought about the movie, then I feel free to write in. My email is awd300 at gmail.com, and you can write into the show. And hey, I'll even read it in the next podcast if you want. Well, Rob, you're on Twitter as well, so why don't you let out your...
My Twitter handle is IZAART. I mean, most places I'm either Isa or Isa Art.
Yeah.
So you can find me pretty easily just looking up Robert Isa.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
You can find you very easily.
Yeah, very easily.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. But again, obviously, if anyone's ever interested in asking me any questions or whatever, I don't mind.
Yeah, okay. So, if you ever want to write to the show, awd300 at gmail.com, or you can also go to my Tumblr, which is awdplace.tumblr.com, and also on Twitter, which is awdtwit. And you can also follow Mike, who will be with us in the next couple episodes. There will be another guest next week. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but...
you'll just have to wait and see.
You'll just have to wait and see.
Or hear.
Yeah, exactly. And Mike is at A Guy Who Draws. If you would like to send a message to him, please feel free, and maybe he can read it on the next show whenever he's on.
Yeah.
And,
awesome. Well, thanks again for having me.
Oh, thanks so much, Rob, for coming along. I was going to thank you first, but I guess you beat me to it.
Well, yeah.
But yes, really, thank you so much, Rob. It was really a pleasure having you to talk about this pretty good movie. Yeah, very good. Yeah. And thank you so much for listening. We are on iTunes, and we are on... oh, crap. What is the other one?
Is it Stitcher?
Stitcher, thank you. Oh my god. Okay, we are on iTunes, we are on Stitcher. This is animatedanarchy.podbean.com. This is Animated Anarchy. I am Andrew Dickman. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Wish I wrote that down.
Yeah.
But I didn't. So
okay, so sorry.
What?
I'm give me a rundown on how you guys did this.
Okay, well,
and
you mean you haven't listened to the first episode?
What?
You have not? What?
No,
it's okay. So basically...
It only just came out. It's on my queue.
Yeah.